Ali MacGraw was once the face of Hollywood romance, a woman the world believed had everything: beauty, success, and a love story that looked untouchable. When she met Steve McQueen, the most dangerous star of his generation, their connection felt immediate and overwhelming even to her. What followed was not a fairy tale, but years of fear, control, and silent suffering hidden behind fame. Now, at 85, Ali MacGraw is finally telling the truth about the man the world called a legend, and the story she tells is far darker than anyone imagined. The woman who had everything before she lost herself. Before Steve McQueen entered her life, Ali MacGraw stood at the absolute peak of her power. By the turn of the 70s, she was not just a successful actress, she was a cultural symbol. Her breakthrough performance in Goodbye, Columbus announced her arrival, but it was Love Story that transformed her into a global phenomenon. Audiences connected to her intelligence, vulnerability, and quiet strength. She earned major award recognition and became one of the most sought-after actresses in Hollywood almost overnight. Magazine covers followed, fashion houses pursued her, studios competed for her availability. She was not manufactured, she was authentic, and that authenticity made her magnetic. At the same time, her marriage to Paramount powerhouse Robert Evans placed her at the center of Hollywood's most powerful inner circle. Evans was not just a producer, he was an empire builder. Being married to him gave Ali unprecedented access, protection, and influence at a moment when her career was still ascending. From the outside, her life looked complete: creative freedom, financial security, industry respect, and a future she could shape entirely on her own terms. But Ali was never drawn to safety alone. Raised in Bedford Village, New York, by artist parents, she grew up surrounded by creativity but also instability. Her father's severe alcoholism and her parents' volatile relationship left deep emotional marks. From a young age, Ali learned to seek intensity, not calm. Success did not erase that pattern, it only masked it. When she traveled to Texas for the getaway, she did not arrive as someone searching for love. She arrived as a woman fully formed, confident in her talent and independence. Then she met Steve McQueen. He was not like the men she knew. He did not offer reassurance or stability. He offered danger, mystery, and raw energy. Later, she would describe their attraction with one word: chemical. It was not romance built slowly. It was a force that bypassed logic entirely. That moment changed everything. Without fully realizing it, Ali MacGraw was about to walk away from the safest position she would ever hold in Hollywood and into the most destructive relationship of her life. The chemistry that ignored every warning. When Ali MacGraw arrived on the set of The Getaway, she was still married to Robert Evans, and Steve McQueen was still legally tied to his wife, Neely Adams. On paper, nothing about this situation suggested a future. In reality, the moment Ali and Steve began working together, boundaries collapsed. She later said their connection was not romantic in the traditional sense. It was immediate, physical, and overpowering. She felt it before she could explain it. It did not ask permission, and it did not allow hesitation. Steve McQueen was already a myth by then. His screen presence carried danger, restraint, and authority. Off-camera, that intensity did not disappear, it intensified. When he entered a room, people felt it. Ali admitted she was no exception. He made her feel chosen in a way that bypassed reason. For a woman raised amid emotional chaos, that feeling carried the weight of destiny rather than risk. The affair exploded quickly and publicly. Hollywood noticed, the press noticed, friends warned her. None of it slowed her down. Ali did not drift away from her marriage to Evans. She severed it. She later acknowledged that she risked everything she had built, believing that what she felt with McQueen was too powerful to deny. Steve, for his part, left his own marriage behind, framing the relationship as inevitable rather than reckless. By the time they married, the world framed them as the ultimate power couple. Two icons, Two rebels, style and danger wrapped in beauty. What the public could not see was how early the balance had already shifted. Even during the height of passion, Ali sensed turbulence beneath McQueen's calm exterior. He was not simply intense, he was guarded, suspicious, and deeply uncomfortable with equality. Steve's past was already shaping their present. Abandoned by his father as an infant, raised by a mother battling addiction, shuffled between unstable homes and abusive stepfathers, he had learned early that trust led to pain. Time spent in a reform school hardened him further. The King of Cool persona was not an act, it was armor, and armor, once locked in place, does not bend easily. Ali believed love could soften him. She believed devotion could create safety where none had existed. Instead, the closer she moved toward him, the more he began to tighten control. What started as passion slowly transformed into expectation, then into demand, and soon into something far more dangerous. The marriage had not even begun, and the cost of loving Steve McQueen was already becoming clear. The demand that ended her career. Once the wedding was behind them, the tone of the relationship changed quickly. What had felt like freedom during the affair became confinement inside the marriage. Steve McQueen did not want a partner who shared the spotlight. He wanted control, certainty, and absolute loyalty. Almost immediately, he made his first non-negotiable demand. Ali MacGraw had to leave Hollywood. This was not a casual suggestion or a temporary pause. He did not want her acting at all. In his mind, a wife should not be admired by other men, interviewed by the press, or pursued by studios. His jealousy was constant and explosive. If Ali so much as looked at another man, McQueen would erupt in rage. Yet at the same time, he felt no obligation to restrain himself. He flirted openly, disappeared for days, and conducted affairs without apology. Blinded by love and still believing she could calm the storm inside him, Ali agreed to the sacrifice. At the absolute peak of her fame, she walked away from her career. Hollywood was stunned. Producers assumed she would return after a short break. She never did. That decision permanently altered the trajectory of her life. The losses were immediate and concrete. Roles that could have defined an entire generation passed her by. Projects that later became landmarks in cinema were no longer even discussed with her. While Steve continued starring in major productions and expanding his wealth, Ali's professional world went silent. The message was clear. His ambitions mattered. Hers did not. McQueen then pushed them into isolation. They withdrew from Hollywood, settling into remote properties where he could control their environment and limit her contact with the outside world. This was not privacy, it was containment. Ali's days became centered on his routines, his interests, his moods. Her own passions, intellect, and independence slowly faded under constant pressure to conform. To formalize that control, McQueen insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Ali signed it without resistance, convinced that love made such precautions unnecessary. In reality, the document ensured that if the marriage collapsed, she would walk away with almost nothing, despite having sacrificed everything. By the time Ali fully understood what she had given up, she was already trapped. Her career was gone. Her support system was gone. And the man she had believed would protect her had become the source of her deepest fear. Infidelity, addiction, and the moment everything broke. Isolation did not calm Steve McQueen's demons. It concentrated them. With Ali cut off from her career and most of her support system, his paranoia, jealousy, and substance abuse intensified. McQueen's infidelity became constant and unapologetic. He demanded total loyalty from Ali while engaging in repeated affairs himself, often disappearing for days at a time. These absences were fueled by alcohol, drugs, and racing, anything that allowed him to escape the emotional pain he refused to confront. The betrayal was not subtle. It was humiliating by design. McQueen's behavior created an atmosphere where Ali was never secure, never trusted, and never safe. His mood swings were unpredictable. Periods of charm and remorse would suddenly give way to explosive anger, accusations, and emotional cruelty. Ali later described living in a constant state of tension, waiting for the next shift, the next disappearance, the next outburst. Over time, the emotional abuse crossed a critical line. McQueen's need for control turned physical. Ali has spoken carefully but clearly about the fear she lived with during this period. Violence was not constant, but its presence changed everything. Once that boundary was crossed, the marriage ceased to be merely dysfunctional. It became dangerous. The most devastating moment came with a deeply personal loss. Ali became pregnant and later miscarried. What she needed in that moment was compassion and support. What she received instead was emotional detachment. McQueen's response was cold, distant, and shockingly indifferent. For Ali, this was the moment when illusion finally collapsed. She realized the man she had sacrificed her identity and career for was incapable of empathy when it mattered most. That loss stripped away the last of her hope. She understood then that love would not fix him. Patience would not save the marriage. Staying would only destroy what remained of her. The decision to leave was not dramatic. It was survival. They separated soon after. The marriage that had once been sold to the world as a union of passion and power ended quietly, marked by fear, grief, and irreversible damage. The divorce that left her with nothing. Leaving Steve McQueen did not bring relief. It brought consequences that Ali MacGraw was completely unprepared for. The divorce was bitter, fast, and unforgiving. The prenuptial agreement McQueen had insisted on years earlier now revealed its true purpose. Despite sacrificing the most valuable years of her career, Ali walked away with almost no financial protection. One of the highest-paid actors in the world exited the marriage untouched. She exited exposed. The shock was immediate. Ali had gone from commanding major salaries and studio leverage to facing real financial uncertainty. She later admitted that she had been naive, believing love would protect her future. Instead, she found herself starting over in an industry that no longer saw her as essential or even reliable. When she tried to return to acting, Hollywood had moved on. The 5-year absence was unforgivable in an industry built on momentum. Producers saw her less as a star and more as a complication, someone whose personal life had overshadowed her talent. She was labeled difficult, damaged, or simply outdated. Offers, when they came, were driven by necessity rather than respect. She accepted work she never would have considered earlier, not because she believed in it, but because she needed income. Projects that once defined her worth were gone, replaced by roles that felt like reminders of what she had lost. Each compromise reinforced the same message. The career she surrendered for love would not be returned. The emotional toll compounded the financial one. Years of isolation, fear, and humiliation had left deep scars. To cope, Ali turned inward, and then downward. Alcohol became her escape. What began as relief slowly became dependence. She later admitted that her drinking was tied not only to pain, but to a lifelong pattern of seeking safety in external forces, men, chaos, intensity, rather than within herself. By the early 80s, she was unraveling quietly. Publicly, she appeared functional. Privately, she was exhausted, ashamed, and lost. The woman who had once defined an era now struggled to recognize herself. Steve McQueen did not live to see her recovery. His battle with cancer ended his life shortly after their divorce. For Ali, his death brought grief without closure. The damage remained, even as the legend froze in time. Ali MacGraw had survived the marriage. Now she faced a harder question, whether she could survive herself. Sobriety, survival, and telling the truth at last. The collapse did not end with the divorce. It followed Ali MacGraw into every quiet moment that came after. By the mid-'80s, the weight of what she had lost, her career, her security, her sense of self, had become unbearable. Alcohol was no longer a companion. It was a necessity. She later admitted that her drinking was not only about grief, but about dependency. The same instinct that had pulled her toward Steve McQueen had now latched onto addiction. The turning point came when someone close to her finally intervened. Reluctantly, Ali entered the Betty Ford Clinic. At first, she believed she simply needed rest, a reset. That illusion did not survive long. During her stay, she was forced to confront the truth she had avoided for years. She was a chronic alcoholic, using alcohol to numb trauma she had never processed. The experience stripped away denial and replaced it with accountability. Sobriety did not restore her old life. It gave her a new one. For the first time, Ali began examining why she had accepted control, why she had equated intensity with love, and why she had erased herself to save someone else. Recovery was slow, painful, and private, but it worked. In the early 90s, she made a definitive decision to leave Hollywood behind. She relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico, choosing a place where status meant nothing and anonymity was respected. There, she rebuilt her life around simplicity, honesty, and purpose. She wrote her autobiography, Moving Pictures, openly detailing her mistakes and trauma. She committed herself to animal welfare, meditation, yoga, and meaningful work that aligned with her values rather than her image. Now, at 85, Ali MacGraw speaks with clarity that only distance and sobriety can provide. She no longer romanticizes what happened. She describes her relationship with Steve McQueen as chemical, but she now understands that chemistry was volatile, not magical. She acknowledges his charm and talent without excusing his control or violence. Her most haunting reflection remains simple. I wish we had both grown old sober. It is not bitterness that defines her voice today. It is truth. The legend remains frozen in time. She survived long enough to tell the full story. Ali MacGraw once gave up everything for a love she believed would save her, and nearly lost herself in the process. Looking back now, do you think passion is ever worth that kind of sacrifice? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories.